Hi everyone, I'm Daniel, and today I'm going to show you a little bit about the new release to the Tabletop Simulator mod for Arkham Horror, the card game. As usual, this is not going to be a full tutorial of how to use the mod, but just a little bit of a highlight reel of what is new. So let's get started. Okay, the first new thing is a lot of changes with the player mat. First thing you'll notice when you drop a new investigator in and load the deck in is a new skin to the player mat. Very cool. So it will match the main class of the investigator that you put right there. Let's take a look at them. That was Guardian. Here is Seeker. Here is Rogue. Mystic. And finally, Survivor. If you're playing a neutral, you'll get the original one. Now, if you don't like these, you can just turn them off entirely. You can go over to the options menu over there on the right, find where it says use class specific texture, and check that off, and you'll go back to the normal mat. But we'll leave it on for now. Okay, one other thing you might have noticed as I was loading the investigators in is that the action ability tokens above the investigator change based on who you are. Now, that's especially the case if you are an investigator like Ursula, who gets an extra action. So her extra ability, of course, is after you move to a location, take an investigate action. So now there's a token to the left here that marks that it is an investigate action. However, if you want to play with, for example, some extra tokens here, and you can spawn those in either by copying these or using, I believe on the numpad 1, you can make your own color and symbol for these tokens yourself by right-clicking on the token, changing the color to whatever color you want, maybe green here, and changing the symbol to, well, all kinds of things here. Maybe we'll make this a free trigger symbol. Maybe there's an ability that you want to use for that, and you can even add a second ability. Maybe the free trigger is always going to be a parlay for some reason. And now we've got a token that is especially for that. And these will reset at the end of the round with upkeep, just like everything else. So the investigators I showed you here don't come with any particular interesting ones other than the investigate one. But let's look at a few other ones to see what might pop in. Okay, this time with Ashcan Pete, who has a free triggered ability that is limit once per round to ready an asset. This is going to pop up in this space down here, and again, you can flip it over to mark that you've done this because it is once per round. If you load in a new investigator, these will go away. So we'll put in Mandy Thompson, and instead hers is a reaction ability. And this is again once per round. It's going to spawn down there in the bottom left corner of your investigator card. Let's check out Tony next. He gets a free engage or fight action, and that's going to be up here. So essentially the once per round free triggered abilities or reactions are going to be on the card. Extra actions themselves, like when you actually take an action, they're going to be up here. And there's actually 2 more spots for them in case you do have more actions to do. You can just spawn these up above, and there should be a little spot for them. Of course, even more actions, you can put more out here. But just again, you can always change what these symbols are representing. One more, let's look at Leo Anderson. This one also is a reaction ability at the beginning of your turn to play an ally, reducing its cost by 1. Not an action, so it goes down here. It's really nice to have this ability to remind yourself if you've done this or not. Of course, you have to remind yourself to use this, and with the new mod, you'll just have to get used to that, or ignore it, of course, entirely. But I think this is a great addition to the mod. All right, while we are here, there's a few new things with Patrice that is worth knowing. And if you've played Patrice before, you've noted that the mod already lets you draw up to 5 cards. Her ability is actually a little bit more than that. It's during each upkeep phase, instead of drawing 1, you discard all non-weakness cards in your hand and draw until you have 5. So like I said before, the mod just did the draw until you have 5. And now we have automated the discard part as well. So just to demonstrate this, if you have 5 cards in your hand and perhaps you've played some of them, let's say you play this one and maybe this one, instead of discarding these all manually, which of course you still can do, there's a hotkey that just discards cards, by the way. But if these were all in your hand and you just hit the upkeep button, whoop, they go away, and you have some new cards instead. Now, you might say, wait a minute, what about things like her weakness? Well, let's go find it. We'll get to it eventually as we keep hitting upkeep. But don't worry, we have planned for weaknesses and hidden cards to never be discarded during this process. Okay, so we've got Psychosis there that really does just go into play, so we won't demonstrate something that isn't right. We'll get to her weakness here. Right at the bottom. Okay, so again, the Watcher from Another Dimension, which is her signature weakness, it stays in her hand. And let's pretend that that wasn't at the very end of the deck. And if we hit upkeep, only those other 4 cards go away. This is true for treacheries, anything else that is hidden, not just her weakness. Let's sneak back in here. Something that was changed for the last version, but I haven't talked about it here on my videos yet, is that, well, all of these slots here now can be given different symbols. You just click the button down here, Edit Slots, and you click one of the symbol or blank spots over here, and you can add new symbols to it. So, for example, you want to add an extra tarot slot because you have multiple tarot cards you could play. You just do that. If you want to get rid of something, if you don't have a arcane slot, you can click here and go to any, and that makes it blank. One thing to remember when you're done doing this, you need to go press the button over here, stop editing. And that way you can still click on things and not have to have that dialog box come up every time. So this is really cool if, for example, you want to edit your slots to have maybe lots of hand slots. Or maybe you're playing Charlie Kane and you've got lots and lots of allies to put into play. Or maybe you just want to play Leo Anderson with 2 left hands. I don't know, the world is your oyster. Okay, the next thing we'll talk about are helpers on cards. You may have noticed these before, and they used to be always enabled via the context menu, as in you right-click a card and enable them, but for this version, and probably this version only, we're going to enable them by default. If you hate this, you can go over to the options and turn off Enable All Card Helpers, and then save your game again. Okay, but if you want to use them, they are really cool. So there's a couple different types, and an old one but good one, is the Well-Connected Helper, which tells you what your skill boost would be based on the number of resources in your resource pool. It's over there in the upper right-hand corner. So another thing to note is that all of these helpers that are basically little buttons or XML on top of the cards, they do go away when you have them in your hand, just so not to clog up your display, but when they go back into play, you'll see them again. The Heavy Furs helper we'll talk about in a second. I'll just throw it away. But the new cool one here for Preston that wasn't here before is one for Family Inheritance. As you can see, the main functions on Family Inheritance can be just done by the buttons here. So if you want to, at the beginning of your turn, place 4 resources here, you can press the button, and here they are. If you want to move them all to your pool, there you go. You move them all over. This is now 9. And, if you have a bunch and you didn't get to spend them, you can press the one on the bottom, discard all, and they're all gone. One other cool thing about this, if you weren't aware that you can add more resources here manually, if you have, a card that gives you resources and you're playing Preston, they need to go here. So if you already have your 4 and you want to add some more, you can hover over, press the numpad number 9 to add tokens. And what's new here is that they arrange them nicely. This is not just true for Family Inheritance, it's true for everything with uses. You're going to get a nice arrangement of tokens instead of having to just drop them wherever your cursor is. And you can keep adding here. If you just get too many for the card, well, it turns into one of these and you can still press the button and get this higher and higher. You can still press discard all and it moves them. Oh, it gets rid of them all. That's not what I meant to do. But if you have this up to, 11 or something and hit move all, they will all show up down here. And yeah, Well Connected, of course, has now been updated to give you 5+5 skill value for this test if you use it. Pretty cool. Okay, what about Heavy Furs, as I mentioned a little bit earlier? Well, this card has the ability, after you reveal a non-autofail symbol on a Chaos token during a skill test you are performing, deal 1 damage to it, cancel that Chaos token, return to the bag, reveal a new Chaos token. So how does this work for, if you weren't using the button here, which I'll show you in a second, well, you would click the button here, you get a symbol token, that's okay, we can do the Heavy Furs ability on it, and then you just click it going back, and then click again, you get something different. Now, that's perfectly well and good, but if you had a bunch of tokens out here and you wanted to cancel, say the skull, and you had these other ones here, and return it and get a new one, you can't do that so easily. Pressing this button returns everything to the back. So that's why I've added this new functionality. So if you click the button now and you get a symbol token, you can press this and it gives you a new token. Very, very nice. Of course, that exhausted and then you put a damage, but the cool part for all of these cards that work the same way is if you had multiple tokens out here like this, and there are multiple eligible ones, you can press the button. So let's just pretend this has been readied again. And now there's a little label on the tokens themselves, which one you want to redraw. So you can click that, boop, goes back, we get a -3 in its place. So this matters for things like Dark Prophecy, for Olive McBride, maybe some other tokens or other cards that allow you to reveal more than one token at once. Now there's a whole bunch of these cards, so take a look at them throughout your Arkham Horror playing. Custom Ammunition, of course, is one of them. What else? Wendy Adams will just redraw anything, but they all should be programmed such that they only let you return and get a new copy of a new token that is eligible via the card's effects. All right, a few more things. We have Kohaku, new investigator from the Feast of Hemlock Vale, who's got a helper of his own. His ability is pretty complicated. At the start of your turn, you either add one bless token or one curse token to the bag, whichever there are fewer of. In a case of Tayu, you choose, or remove 2 bless and 2 curse tokens to take additional action. So I've automated this as well. These buttons will add 1 bless or 1 curse, and you're only able to do what the card allows you to do. So now that we have more, so we've added 1 bless token in, as you can see over there, and now at the start of your next turn, you're only able to add a curse in because there's fewer curses than blesses. So that is the way that works. So you can just click those buttons to add whichever one is the eligible one. Now, the remove function is grayed out here because we don't have 2 blesses and curses in the bag. So let's just make sure we have that. And once we do, we're allowed to hit the remove button, and that does something special. It gives us an extra action token, pops up right here. Now, at the end of your round, that extra action will go away because it is only temporary. His Elder Sign ability is +2, add 1 curse and 1 bless to the bag, and without just moving your mouse over here and clicking, which might be like a lot further away if you're sitting in one of the other playmats, that button will just add both of them in for you. Cool. Kohaku also has some other cool stuff, and there's some more additions to the bless and curse related cards as well, but his Book of Living Myths, this has been in the mod for a little bit now too, allows you to basically do the same thing that I just said. So this time the ability is to exhaust it, and you get to reveal, instead of whatever you would be revealing, a bless or curse, whichever there are more of. So this will let you do that. There you go. Now the only eligible one was the bless, or sorry, the curse now, because there's more curses in the bag, right? Because this one is still counted under this manager. So we use that, get rid of it, and then next time we can resolve a curse instead. And here it is. So that way you can still interact by pressing the right click button on here to get the next token in the chain. Let's pick up one more ally that you might have played with before, Nkosi Mbati, sort of a combination of what we've looked at so far. This one you do need to enable right now by right-clicking and pressing the button here. He asks you to choose a sigil, so basically a token that you want to be drawing a lot. And we can choose the skull here. And whenever you reveal a cultist, elder thing, or tablet symbol, you can exhaust him and instead reveal and resolve the skull token. So let's see how that works. Let's see if we get one of the tokens. No, there's the skull. There's a tablet. Okay, so we can press the button here, and it puts the tablet back in and gives us the skull. Very nice. And again, it will keep track of what is in the bag and what isn't in the bag, and won't let you pull out a skull if there aren't any in there. So that is Nkosi. Let's go back to Bless and Curse, though. As earlier, we looked at things that interact with the tokens that have been drawn. This is a helper for False Covenant, which has the ability to cancel a curse token that you revealed during a skill test. It also tells you to return it to the token pool and reveal another token. So let's see what that would look like. Let's add some more curses in here. So there's 4 in the bag. We can immediately just press the button here and get a new token, and you notice now there's only 3 in the bag, so you don't need to go over and remove it anymore. If you had more than one curse out and you want to only cancel one of them, again, you press the button, and now you can choose which one to click. That one, we get a new token. Last thing, we're going to take a look at Favor of the Sun. We've got some new stuff. Let's get rid of these other distractions for sealing, resolving, and looking at some of these tokens. So you can seal blessed tokens. You're probably familiar with that before. And this time we now are able to see how many are sealed on our card. Can't seal more than 3. That's what Favor of the Sun lets you do. But this little X3 on the top here will tell you how many are in the stack. Sometimes it's hard to see, especially if you're zoomed out, how many are sitting there. Now, if you want to resolve this token, you can right-click it and press the button Resolve. That moves it over here, and you can continue to draw tokens by right-clicking as normal. When you press this, you do have to remove the token because it went back into the bag, unless you have Sacred Covenant or something. So that is Favor of the Sun. Pretty cool. I should add also with Rite of Sanctification, which lets you release Chaos tokens sealed on it, which makes more sense than what I was doing with the Favor of the Sun. So let's seal 5 blesses here. And the ability to exhaust and then release, you can right-click and release 1 token. That's perfectly fine. But if you're a hotkey aficionado, you can now use the Remove 1 Use hotkey and just get rid of 1 that way. It goes back into the bag, updates the status over here perfectly fine. Okay, I've popped over to the upper left-hand corner of the table to look at where all the player cards are. Something that is new, or at least a newer feature, part of something that existed before, is how you can get random basic weaknesses. So sometimes you just want to go get a random basic one. You can left click on this button here. It looks like a little dice, and it gets you a random one. That's if you don't care what it is, and you can keep clicking on this to get something different. However, if you want to get a particular kind, you can right-click the button now, and if you want just a madness weakness, you can hit OK, and you'll get a madness weakness. If you want, for example, an injury weakness, you can do that. Injury. Some campaigns, actually quite a few, ask you to get a random cultist or madness or injury, and we can do this by separating the eligible traits with the vertical bar and type in either madness, injury, or let's say cultist, and hit OK. And now we for sure are going to get one of those. We can even do it again. This time we got a madness. Do it again, more injuries, etc., etc. Okay, last thing for this video, and this is an older hotkey from the last version, but I haven't really shown it off here on my channel, so I'd like to talk about it. And this is the Move Card to Threat Area game key. If you don't know about hotkeys, by the way, they are easily found when you go up to the options menu up here, game keys, and there's a bunch of stuff here. So you are able to go down and find it. I have put the place card in threat area as actually one of the mouse key. This is like the side mouse key that I have. So anyway, let's go ahead and show what this does. So if you are perhaps evading and exhausting some cards, and you during upkeep have to ready them and put them into your threat area, because that's what happens, you can do that by hovering over, pressing the button, and then when you do hit the the upkeep key, it will ready here. Additionally, you could do this for example, you've just drawn an enemy, and instead of just leaving it over here, you can press the button and it'll move it over here. If you draw another encounter card, for example, Dissonant Voices, it says place it into your threat area. Boom. It's always going to find an empty one, unless there aren't any empty ones. But this very nicely keeps you from having to click and drag the card over here, which probably most of you are doing every time you draw a card. Also, this is kind of another strange idea. If you want to commit cards, you could do it from your hand that way. If you want to commit to an evasion, this stray cat, you can just boop, put it over here to get it out of your hand and sort of remind yourself that you've committed it. Usually I'm putting skill cards that I commit somewhere in this area, and that's a fast way to get it out of your hand. This indeed can be from anyone's play area, so you could have this over here, right? And I can engage it, and it'll move it right over to me, over here, engage it, move her over to me. Well, that's about it for the update. There are, of course, a few more things, bug fixes and whatnot in the release notes. I encourage you to check them out and test things out. Of course, let us know if you run into any bugs or have some future requests of features. We're always adding things. Next one will be 4.0. I don't know how we can top this one. There's so many new cool features into it, but we will try our best. Thanks for watching and enjoy Arkham Horror, the card game.